Ladies and gentlemen, lend me your ears and your eyes. Diva Divine Light, live from Brooklyn, New York.
Don't get laying for what you saying, yo. Silly with my 9 million with the dilly, yo. When I be on the mic, yes, I do my duty, yo. While up in the club, like we while in the studio. You don't wanna vibe, nigga, really and truly, yo. My main thug, nigga named Julio, he moody, yo. Like a nigga that'll slap me with the tulio. Bitch, nigga scared to death, act fruity, yo. Fuck that, nigga shorty, she a little cutie, yo. The way you shake it, make me wanna get all in the booty, yo. But don't get laying for what you saying, yo.
Diva Divine Light.
Really my heart to me. Fucking see what you got for me. Put more than years with my eyes to see. Still $1 in the place to be. If you really my heart to me. Fucking see what you got for me. Put more than years with my eyes to see. Still $1 in the place to be. If you.
You're watching Diva, the Divine Light. A fun-loving, caring, passionate person who talks about sex, celebrity, and real-life issues, and even abuse. So hit that like button and make sure you share the show.
Really my heart to me. Fucking see what you got for me. Put more than years with my eyes to see. Still $1 in the place to be. If you really my heart to me. Fucking see what you got for me. Put more than years with my eyes to see. Still $1 in the place to be. If you really my heart to me. Fucking see what you got for me. Put more than years with my eyes to see. Still $1 in the place to be. If you really my heart to me. Fucking see what you got for me. Put more than years with my eyes to see. Still $1 in the place to be. If you.
Here comes the pitch, and it comes in wide. On the combo.
Yo, 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 yo. Hello, 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 everyone. Good afternoon. Sorry I was late, guys. I know I was supposed to be here at 12 o'clock, but life got in the way. So I apologize for making you guys wait. I'm here. What's up, what's up, what's up, everybody in the building? Open-minded. What's up, bro? Brooklyn is in the building. Yes. Greetings from South Central Virginia. Hello, Cisco. How are you? Nice to meet you. Welcome, welcome. Catherine with friends. Hey, lady. How are you? Welcome back. Hey, Miss Showers. How are you? Yes. Hello to everyone who's out here. So, I know you're probably going to hear some ruckus in the background. The husband's in the back doing his thing, hanging out with his boys online. So you might hear a little this and I might hear a little bit of that. So I hope everybody's doing good. Life has put me on hold a little bit, guys. You know, I'm a mom and I'm a stay-at-home mom. So TSWOCOV, welcome back, baby. How are you, sis? Congratulations for being a member for 25 months. Okay, baby, working hard and listening from the bushes. I got you, baby. So, Keefe D. Keefe D has been out here for many, many years talking about the assassination of Tupac. He's admitted it. He's told stories about it. And the cops for many, many years did not do anything to this man. Reason being is that he had a proffer agreement with the government. So he kind of felt that that was his escape from being caught. And then Orlando Anderson, who was his nephew, wound up being assassinated in the streets of California. I believe it was like a year or two after Tupac's death. Yeah, the D stands for dummy. Yeah, I would agree. I would agree, open-minded, okay? He was out here spilling the beans and thinking he couldn't get touched. But at the end of the day, they grabbed him up because they wound up getting a search warrant and found evidence that points the finger to everything he has confessed throughout these years. So it's about time we caught Tupac's killer anyway. Unfortunately, we haven't found Biggie's yet. And I hope and pray that Brooklyn, you know, gets to put him to rest too, you know. It's a shame that the industry went as far as it did to hype up all this mess, you know, with the whole East Coast, West Coast drama that happened back then in the 90s. And, you know, it was all for entertainment. It was all for record sales, you know, hype. And it's a shame that we lost two great artists who were in the hip hop world. And these two, they were lyricists beyond lyricists. They had a lot of great music that spoke about real life issues and things that were going on in the streets. They spoke about the love of their women. They spoke about the love of their moms. And they spoke about the streets and the drug life and the gang life and the industry. And they also made music to make us party, dance, laugh, smile, think. And their music was so much better than the music that's out here today. And I miss those two guys a lot. They were two of my favorite artists besides R. Kelly. And it's a shame that we are losing such great human beings. You know, I know R. Kelly's a monster because the man did what he did behind the scenes to young women and boys and girls. And unfortunately, we lost Tupac and Biggie due to a war of who's better than who in the industry. And it's a shame because they didn't have to lose their lives. So may they always rest in peace. Hey, honey, what's up, baby? I miss you too, sweetheart. I'm glad you're here, baby. I've been doing okay. I've just been going through a lot. Both my children are going through mental health crises right now. I didn't say anything to anyone, but yeah, they're both going through struggles right now. Right before the summer started, my daughter was hit by a car. And so she's struggling with PTSD right now due to that. But she's gone a long way so far, you know. And I thank God that she was okay. And she's scathed that incident with her whole life, not a scratch on her. The angels were with her. Her angels. That's my family members that just recently passed away. They were right there to pick her up and place her. You know. And now my son is struggling, you know, that he has ADHD and he's on the autism spectrum disorder. And so he's struggling right now with issues because he's punished. And being that he's punished, he doesn't know how to deal with consequences. So he's struggling with his mental health right now, and I'm going through a lot with him. So yeah, guys, I've been on mommy duty. Yeah. So but I'm okay, and they'll be fine too, you know? My son is really going through it, and yeah. So, besides that, hey Marlene, how are you, sweetheart? Welcome, welcome. All right, guys. So enough about me. Let's not get off subject, please. I'm gonna start getting emotional. Honey bunny, I love you. But we're here to talk about Keefe D, right? Thank you, Marlene. Okay, so I'm going to hold on one second. Hey, Steady, what's up, baby boy? Welcome, welcome, welcome back, guys. Welcome to everybody who's in here and everybody who's in the bushes. Hey, what's up, guys? Please make sure you hit that like button, okay? And if you're not subscribed to the channel, please hit the subscribe button. All right. And put that notification bell on all. Thank you. Hey, Queen. What's up, sis? How are you, babe? All right. So I'm going to share my screen. Okay. I'm going to share my screen with you guys. Hopefully you guys can see the paperwork on the screen. Hey, Ty, what's up, baby? Hey, wifey, what's up, lady? What's up, my sisters? Oh, I took everybody's wrench away. Let me give you back your wrench. Hold on. You weren't the only one who lost the wrench, mamita. Everybody lost the wrench because there was some issue going on, and I didn't know who was doing what, and I just took everybody's wrenches away. Hold on 1 second, guys. Give me 1 second. I was waiting for my grocery delivery. Please give me a moment. All right. Apologize about that, guys. Sorry. I'm back. So, as we know, Keefe D, this is coming from the 8th Judicial District Court, and it's the Court of Nevada. Okay. And it is the state of Nevada that is the plaintiff versus DUANE Keith Davis, aka Keefe D. And he is the defendant. Okay.
I fucking died. I fell off the fucking roof.
So let's get back to the paperwork here. All right. So this was taken at Las Vegas, Nevada, Thursday, August 10th of 2023 at 11:07 a.m. Okay. And this is part of volume 2 of the grand jury's testimonies. Okay. So this is volume 2. Okay. And then it lists all the grand jurors. Okay. And also the also present at the request of the grand jury was the Chief Deputy District Attorney and the Chief Deputy District Attorney. So there was 2 chief deputies for the district attorney. Okay. It says index of witnesses, Kevin Manning.
We gotta find some boxes to come back.
And then in an index of exhibits, there are 9 to 12 photos, 10 identified. And Danette says, having been first duly sworn to faithfully and accurately transcribe the following proceedings to the best of her ability.
You know what I'm saying? I'm hitting him. What the fuck? Hit him, Berto, to your right, right next to you.
Okay. So Mr. Digiacamo, I can't even pronounce that. I'm so sorry. Well, Mr. Mark, let's just label him Mark. He says, good morning, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Mark. I'm here with Binu Pala. We're here to continue the matter under, and then it says the index of the his docket number. Then it says, today we have one additional witness. In addition to that, my understanding is from the last presentation, there was a transcript made. There are several grand jurors who were not present at the last presentation, but they've had an opportunity to review those transcripts. We are not deliberating today. So, and there may be several more days that we present evidence to you. So there are going to be transcripts each time for anybody who doesn't make a particular week to review. If there are no questions, I'd call my next witness. It says, stand there, remain standing, and raise your right hand. The foreperson says, you do solemnly swear the testimony you are about to give upon the investigation now pending before this grand jury shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God. And the witness says, I do. The foreperson says, please be seated. You are advised that you are here today to give testimony in the investigation pertaining to the offense murder with use of a deadly weapon with the intent to promote, further, or assist a criminal gang involving DUANE Davis. Okay. And she says, do you understand this advice? The witness says, yes. The foreperson says, please state your first and last name and spell them both for the record. So the witness says his name is Kevin Manning. KEVINMANNING. Now, Kevin Manning, having been first duly sworn by the foreperson of the grand jury to testify to the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, testified as follows. Examination by Mr. Mark. Now, Mr. Mark asks him, "Sir, are you currently employed?" Kevin says, "I am not." "What did you retire from doing?" Kevin says, "I was a sergeant with the homicide unit with the Las Vegas Metropolitan Police Department. I retired December 31st of 2024. When did you first hire on with Metro?" He said, "November of 1981. "And how long were you a sergeant with the homicide unit?" He said, 10 years. Mark says, "I'm going to direct your attention to around September 7th of 1996. Did you become involved in the investigation of someone who was ultimately identified as Tupac Shakur?" He said, "I was. And how is it that you wound up getting involved in the investigation?" He says, "I received a phone call at my home from a general assignment detective. I believe it was Augie Cudson, who said there had been a shooting on the Strip involving a rap artist, and that even though he had only been seriously wounded at that point, he thought that the homicide section should get involved with the investigation." Mark asks, "Now, this grand jury has almost been here a year, but most of what they hear is sort of how Metro works in modern times." So he's talking about the Metro Police Department. "I want to talk just a little bit about the way Metro worked back then. So you said something about a general assignment detective. What was general assignment?" Then he says, "General assignment were detectives. It was a specific section within the Detective Bureau, and they were assigned to swing shift and graveyard shifts. And basically, they responded to major crimes and deaths, whether it be suicides or unknown deaths at the time. And they would do the preliminary investigation. And if it was a robbery, they call out the robbery section. If it was a major burglary, they'll call out burglary. And in our case, if it was a homicide or thought it would be a homicide, they would call the homicide section. And when the homicide section, you get this phone call, how many detectives roll out to begin this investigation?" He says, "At that point, it was the sergeant and 2 detectives." "And you were the sergeant?" He says, "I was the sergeant." "And who were the 2 detectives?" He says, "Mike Franks and Brent Becker." Then the Mark says, "I have you here for testimony about something that happened several days later. But at some point, do you get notified?" And I'm going to say specifically on September 13th of 1996 that Mr. Shakur has succumbed to his injuries. Kevin, the ex-detective, says, "Yes, if I recall, I was still at the office at the time and received a phone call from Ron Flood, who was the coroner for Clark County at the time, who informed me that Tupac Shakur had passed at University Medical Center. And he stated that because of the notoriety and all the fans and so forth that were in Las Vegas and at UMC, they decided to do the autopsy that evening. So I then notified detectives Becker and Franks, and the 3 of us went down to the coroner's office for the autopsy." "So you were present during the autopsy of Mr. Shakur?" He says, I was. Do you recall the medical examiner that was conducting that autopsy? He said, it was Dr. Jordan. And during the course of the autopsy back in those days, were there photographs that were taken mostly by Metro instead of the Clark County's coroner's personnel? He says, yeah, there was somebody from the crime scene analysis, and I don't recall the specific analysis that was there at the time. So Ben Mark says, but it was Metro's back in those days. It was Metro's responsibility to be the major documentators of the autopsy by way of photographs. The coroner's office did not take as many photographs. He says, I didn't know the coroner's office even took any. So, yes. Then he says, I'm going to show you what's been marked as grand jury exhibits 8 through, I think, may I? They're supposed to start at 9. And then the juror says 9. And then Mr. Mark said the CD is 8. The juror said, oh, Mr. Mark says, we're going to have a little correction here made, and then we will have 8 recreated for the grand jury that we played last time. The juror said, sorry. Mr. Mark says, that's all right. Mr. Mark continues questioning ex-sergeant Kevin, right? So he asks Kevin, so he says to Kevin, shall I say, so I'm going to show you what's been now correctly marked as grand jury exhibits 9 through 12 and ask you to take a look at those. And then Kevin says, okay. And then Mark says, do you recognize what's depicted in those photographs? He says, I do. He said, are they true, fair, and accurate depictions of Mr. C.C.R. after his death? Mr. Mark says, yes, and prior to the actual autopsy. Mr. Mark says, I'm going to go through those. They're going to pop up on the big screen for you. Let's start with grand jury exhibit number 9. So when Mr. C.C.R. is brought to autopsy, there's overall photographs taken of him prior to any medical or any autopsy cutting or anything like that. And he says, correct. And this appears to be a photograph of a full body shot of Mr. C.C.R. from the top of his head to the bottom of his feet. And Kevin says, correct. Then Mark says, grand jury exhibit number 10. I want you to kind of ignore the medical intervention, but sort of stitched up here during the course of your investigation. Did you learn that that was ultimately the fatal gunshot wound generally in that location on Mr. C.C.R.'s body? He says, correct. And then he had 2 injuries that appeared to be associated with gunshot wounds. He said, that's correct, on his hip. And that's grand jury exhibit number 11. And there was also one of the finger of the right hand. And on this photograph, on the bottom, that's Mr. C.C.R.'s right hand. He said, correct. And there appeared to have been a through and through injury that appeared to be related to gunshots. The ex-sergeant says, correct. Then Mr. Mark says, thank you. That completes my questions for the witness if the grand jury has any questions. So in other words, he's trying to point out here in this part of the grand jury testimony that Tupac really did die. Tupac is really dead. Tupac is not alive. Let's get over the conspiracy theories, please. Right here in this grand jury testimony, the ex-sergeant is saying that, yes, they took photos of him before he went to the autopsy and after the autopsy. So they showed pictures of his wounds, where they all were. They showed where they cut him open to do the full autopsy of his body, right? And, remove contents or whatever it is that they usually do during autopsies, right? They look at the heart, the liver, the lungs. They look at all that stuff. See if there's any good body parts. Donate them if they can be donated, right? And then they stitch them back up. So Mr. Kevin, the ex-sergeant, was just describing what he saw that day that Tupac had went to the hospital. And on the day that he was dead, pronounced dead, and the wounds that were on his body and the fatal wound that killed him, and that's what they were describing. So can all the conspiracy theorists please stop it with the Tupac is alive? Tupac is not alive. He is in heaven. May he rest in peace. It's crazy, right, guys? Hey, Karen Johnson, what's up, baby? Hey, Goon, what's up, Goon? All right. All right, so now the foreperson says no questions. And it says, then the foreperson says, by law, these proceedings are secret and you are prohibited from disclosing to anyone anything that has transpired before us, including evidence and statements presented to the grand jury. Any event occurring or statement made in the presence of the grand jury and information obtained by the grand jury, failure to comply with this demotion, admonition, is a gross misdemeanor punishable by up to 364 days in the Clark County Detention Center and a $2,000 fine. In addition, you may be held in contempt of court with an additional $500 fine and 25 days in the Clark County Detention Center. So anybody who was on that grand jury that was listening to this stuff, looking at evidence, if anybody spoke about that they were on the grand jury, they would get penalized for that. Thank God we won't get penalized over here because now this is officially public information. Okay? Okay. Because this document was not sealed. Okay? So it is officially public information. So the witness says, I do. The foreperson said, thank you. The juror says, I'm sorry. The foreperson said a question. Mr. Mark said, okay. Yay. Hi, baby. Uh-oh. Uh-oh, guys. I just got a letter.
Do you have your camera on?
No, my camera's not on.
Are you
Hi,
talking?
baby.
Are you on a stream?
Yes, I am. Give me a kiss.
Hi, guys.
My lady just got home from school.
It's been a while since I said hi to them.
Yes.
Hi.
Guess what's up, guys? I just got a letter to be summoned for jury duty.
Oh, for real? Wait,
Yeah.
Let me see.
This is
I
it.
know.
You can check it out. Give it back to me when you're done. Mommy, do me a favor.
What's this?
There's a ginger ale in the fridge.
Uh-huh.
And the silver cup over there. Can you put the juice in there for me? The soda, I mean. Thank you, baby. So I've been summoned to do jury duty, guys. This should be fun.
Jurors are paid 40 per day. Travel.
Yeah, they pay $40 per day. That's what the jurors get paid, $40 a day.
But what is this for?
To go serve as a juror.
I know, but for what case?
They won't tell you. They tell you that when you get there. They pick you out for that when you get there.
But I'm nosy.
Sorry. And when if I do get picked, the only thing I could tell you is the kind of case I'm dealing with, but I can't talk about the case until the case is over.
So like they have cameras.
No, they don't have cameras in here, but I can't talk about the case. That's not the rules. I gotta listen to the rules, baby. It's the law. Listen to them. They all want me to perjure myself and be in contempt and go to jail. You hear these people? My family is funny.
Let me be nosy.
Give me 1 second.
It's not fair. You know the thing with doing math with the math dollars, right?
Yeah.
You want to see how many I have now?
Oh, Lord, you rich?
Yeah.
You go, girl.
Like wait. Because it's mainly for participating and your answers on the board.
Okay, good.
So I'm gonna show you.
All right, so sorry about the interruption, guys. Sorry. Then my people said, hello, young lady.
Hi.
My daughter's rich in math class. She's got a bunch of math dollars. Now, what are you going to do? You're going to turn them in or what?
I want to keep saving them for maybe like a major test. Well, not a major test to where it's like the school test, but like class test. Like
Yeah.
class test. So if I give my points and I get extra points on tests.
Okay, good. Good girl.
Homework passes.
All right, good.
So that's going to be used a lot.
My girl's going to be using her math dollars for homework pass and passes for tests.
It's not a pass for tests, it's extra points.
Extra points, sorry.
No,
Extra points for her test. So in case if like she gets an 80, right? And she gives in $10. So I guess she would get 10 extra points. So she would get a 90 instead of an 80. And she's in the criminology. She's in the criminology forensic science. She's a major in criminology and forensic science. So she's learning to become a CSI one day. She wants to be a crime scene investigator. Yeah.
By the way, did I tell you about in criminology we had a debate?
You had a debate. Another debate? Oh Lord, what are you talking about today?
Okay, so you know the protest that happened after Trump was kind of like demoted?
Yeah. The storm of January 6th.
We were talking about that, and then we also talked about what was his name? That one dude in 2013 who was in like the NASA area, and he ended up exposing the government for collecting people's data.
Okay.
I don't remember how to pronounce his name. Where it starts with a J.
Okay.
Joden or something. Edward Joden or something.
Okay.
And we were like debating if he was like a hero or like a traitor to the country. And I was like, I feel like
he was being honest to the country. He's not being a traitor. He's trying to tell us the truth.
That's what I said. I feel like he was being a hero, and the only reason he ended up skipping the country is because I feel like if he stayed in the U.S., he could have been arrested or he could have been silenced, and that would have been.
So he went to a country where he couldn't get extradited back to the U.S.
He went to Hong Kong, and he told a reporter, and the reporter released it to
the world, right?
Everywhere.
Wow. Okay.
So I was like, but at the same time, he did release documents that shouldn't have been released, considering it is U.S.
Classified.
And then also China and America.
It was
and
classified
Hong Kong.
documents.
Everybody has like issues with them.
Well, that's just like what we were talking about here. If you say something about the grand jury testimony, because these grand jury testimonies are secret.
Yeah.
A grand jury is a secret ceremony. It's a secret hearing, shall I say.
They go in a separate room and they talk about what they think.
The case and everything, just to see if they should bring if they should bring charges and an indictment forward. So I'm reading the grand jury testimonies from Keefe, the guy who killed Tupac Shakur.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, that's what I'm reading right now.
Oh, yikes.
Yeah. And right now we just finished going through an ex-sergeant who was just describing that Tupac was really dead.
Oh,
yeah. Yeah. So he went under oath to let everybody know that, yes, Tupac really did die of gunshot wounds. You go, babe. Look at how cute you are. This was the homework or the
it's
test?
Classwork. It's classwork.
Oh, okay.
All this is like printed and we do it in school.
Okay. Okay, she's in geometry and she's learning geometry right now.
I hate it.
But she's doing pretty good. So for somebody who hates it, you're doing pretty good, girl. Congratulations.
It's because I'm a bad test taker. I'm good in the classroom, but like I feel like if I take tests, I get too anxious. And then also, it's just the test.
Just
fair.
think of it as classwork. Don't put it in your head that it's a test. Just
that's impossible when the teachers are constantly being like, "This is an assessment grade." In your ear.
Oh no! Tell them go away.
I can't do that.
Tell her you're distracting me, Teach.
Because they have to.
Mommy, did you pour me that soda?
Oh, right. Sorry.
Okay, thank you. No, it's okay. Let me get back to my commentary. Thank you. No, there's an ale on the bottom of the fridge. Yeah, on the bottom shelf there. No, it's okay. Yeah, it's okay. My daughter came to distract us. It's all right. All right. So, now Mr. Mark, as we know, the prosecutor, the DA, right, says, okay, yeah, she can ask the question. The foreperson said, can I finish? Do you understand this advisement? The witness says, yes, yes. The foreperson said, you're still under oath. And the witness says, yes, I understand. And now the next question is, so we didn't see a death certificate. Can you tell us the cause and manner of death? Mr. DeMacco says, there will be other witnesses who will testify to that. He is not qualified to make that determination. Thank you. I told you in the silver cup that was with the ice. Daddy's silver cup. Isn't it Daddy's silver cup over there?
I thought that was our stuff. You know what? Just take it.
It's okay. Thank you. Okay, so thank you, my love. So then, so the juror asks the DA that he says, so we didn't see the death certificate. Can you tell us the cause and manner of death? And the DA has explained that there will be other witnesses who will testify to that this sergeant here is not qualified to make the determination of cause and manner. He was just there to determine, yes, this man did die. He was shot. We did see the wounds. We saw pictures of before and after his autopsy. Okay. Hold on a second. Andy, can you answer that door? Sorry.
You left the thermos to the freezer, by the way.
I know. Matter of fact, take it out. So if you want to, yes. Okay. Yeah, you got to let it defrost. Give it about an hour. Yeah, give it about an hour so I could cut through it. Yep. Okay. Sorry about the interruption, guys. Ugh. So, okay. Then the juror says, okay, thank you. And Mr. Mark says, thank you. And then the juror says, just verification, 3 shots or 4 shots? And the answer to that was there were 4 gunshot injuries. Is that a fair? And then the answer was yes, because there were multiple in the car itself. So, and the juror said, right. Hi, baby. How are you? How was your day? Okay. So then the witness, the sergeant, right, says, but I believe it was 4 is what they ended up documenting at the autopsy. And the juror said, thank you. And then Mr. Marks said, anyone else? Sir, you're still under the admonishment. The witness said, okay, thank you. The DA says, thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, that completes the presentation of the evidence in this case today. We are shortly coming back with more evidence for you, and we are going to find out why exhibit number 8 is not here. See if it got put in maybe one of the wrong folders or got a replacement exhibit 8 or get a replacement exhibit 8 that was played for you last time. Thank you. And they wanted to recess. Juror Russell Crowe not present for the following. Okay. Mr. Mark says, ladies and gentlemen, we're back on the record. The secretary told me that the disc number 8 has actually been located. It was just filed in a different proceeding from the last time we were here. It's been located. It never left the grand jury room. Oh boy, all these interruptions. Give me a second, guys. I am so sorry. Hey, Brittany, how are you, honey? How are you? Long time no see, mama. Okay, guys, sorry about that. I'm back. Let me hurry this up. Okay, so he says the secretary told me that the disc number 8 has actually been located. It was just filed in a different proceeding from the last time we were here. It's been located. It never left the grand jury room. And the juror says, no. And then Mr. DeMarco says, thank you very much. We're now off the record. All right. Okay. Okay, and that's the end of that one. And we have the second part here, which was taken at Las Vegas, Nevada, Thursday, September 14th of 2023 at 8:36 a.m. And this is part A of volume 7. And then it says the grand jurors, and I list all the grand jurors. And also, as we know, the Chief Deputy District Attorney, the DA, Mr. Mark. And this is the witness, Clifford Mogg. Okay, so this is his testimony, and it says Grand Jury Exhibits 48 CD with video clips. So that is part of this. Okay, so the foreperson says, let the record reflect that I have canvassed the waiting area and no one has appeared in response to notice of intent to seek indictment. So Mr. Mark, the DA, says, good morning, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Mark. I'm a deputy district attorney here in the Clark County. We're here to continue presenting evidence in grand jury case number. If there are no questions, I would continue with Detective Mogg. And the foreperson says, you're all ready. You do solemnly swear the testimony you are about to give upon the investigation now pending before this grand jury shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God. The witness, Mr. Mogg, says, I do. The foreperson said, please be seated. You are advised that you are here today to give testimony in the investigation pertaining to the offense of murder with use of a deadly weapon with the intent to promote, further, or assist a criminal gang involving Duane Davis. Do you understand this advisement? The witness, Mr. Mogg, continues and says, I do. The foreperson said, please state your first and last name and spell them both for the record. The witness said, Clifford Mogg, and he spells out his name. Clifford Mogg, having been first duly sworn by the foreperson of the grand jury to testify to the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, testified as follows. The DA asks him, Detective Mogg, you were here last week and you had presented sort of a lengthy interview of Mr. Davis concerning the events surrounding Mr. Shakur's death. Is that accurate? He said, yes. The DA says, you have, or at least we have within grand jury exhibit number 48, 3 more. I'll call them clips. Some more lengthy than others, describing certain facts and circumstances surrounding that as well. The detective says that's correct. The DA says, in addition to that, are there numerous other times that Mr. Davis has been portrayed on the internet in videos describing essentially the same version of events? The detective said, there's hours worth. The DA said, and during those hours, while there are, you would agree with me, there are some small inconsistencies, some of which he gets confronted with. Is that fair? The detective said, correct. The DA says, but ultimately his story is fairly consistent on who's in the car, what direction it's heading when they realize that the caravan with Shug and Mr. Shakur are in it, and that they do a U-turn and pull up on the gutter and they shoot the vehicle, essentially. He said, that's correct. The DA says, so I'm going to play what's marked on grand jury exhibit number 48 as number 2. Then they had the video playing. The DA says, well, we'll go to the next clip, which is marked as 3. And then they played the video. And then the DA says, now, detective, to clear something up, you reviewed the transcripts of Suge Knight's formal interviews with police. Is that fair? The detective said, yes. The DA says, and would you agree or disagree that he was less than forthcoming about both the events at the MGM as well as the shooting event itself? The detective said, yeah, he was less than cooperative with the detectives that were interviewing him that night. The DA said, so when Keefe D says Suge told the police that first night he's at least, Suge Knight didn't tell Metro that first night, correct? The detective said, I don't have any evidence that Suge Knight told the Metropolitan Police Department or any other police department who was involved in the shooting of him and Tupac Shakur. The DA said, you, since in your investigation, and this jury's heard from Reggie Wright Jr., who is head of security for Death Row Records, correct? He said, yes. You're aware that Suge and Reggie Wright and people around Suge were having conversations in the days after the homicide? The officer said, that's correct. The DA said, and you're aware that Reggie had communicated to his father, who was either at that time the lieutenant or captain of the Compton Police Department gang unit? He said, yes. And so when Mr. Davis says Suge told that first night, that appears to be corroborated by the event that occurs with Reggie's Wright Sr., he said, yes. And I also learned that through my investigation, and then the DA said, one more video to play, and this is marked as 4 on exhibit number 48. They played the video. Then he goes back to questioning the officer. He said, throughout these videos, Mr. Davis keeps referencing telling on himself. Do you hear that a variety of times? And the officer said, yes. The DA said, and in the course of your investigation, there have been portions of some sort of recording that was taken in California by California law enforcement and or federal agents as part of a California task force. Is that correct? He said there was. Then he asks, have you ever received a full copy of the recording that allegedly occurs in LA sometime between 2006 and 2009? He said, I have not. The DA said, the only parts of that you know about are what has been posted on the internet in small snippets. He said, that's correct. So the DA says, thank you. That completes my questions for the witness. Does the grand jury have any questions? And then the juror's question said, did you personally interview Keefe D? And the officer said, I was there when I executed a search warrant at his residence, and I sat in the car with him for a while, but there wasn't an interview conducted per se. He did not want to talk. The DA says, okay, ladies and gentlemen, you cannot use the fact that he chose to remain silent with Detective Mogg in consideration of the probable cause in this particular case. I have a question, the juror says. I have a question. In regards to the home with the warrant, did you guys obtain anything? The answer was, there was evidence that we obtained that was relevant to this case from his house in Henderson. The juror says, uh-huh. Then the DA says, and let me, first of all the electronics that were in that house were collected, correct? The answer was electronics that we believed were relevant to the investigation were collected. Then the DA says, and what was the purpose of collecting those particular electronics? The answer is, so we took his cell phone that he had with him at the time the warrant was executed, because I want to review the download from that phone to see if there's any communications between him and anyone else associated with this investigation. When I say that, I mean people who he has conducted YouTube interviews with, documentation as to his involvement in the Death Rose Chronicles documentary, and then anything that would have been related to his involvement in and the publication of his book. So they went through his stuff to look at the documentation that he was involved in, his YouTube interviews, the Death Row Chronicles documentary, and anything else that had been related to be involved in this case, including his book. So now the DA says, in addition, were you looking to see if there were evidence of remuneration or financial payment for his claims of being responsible for the death of Tupac Shakur? The answer to that is, that was one of the things we were going to look for also. In addition to that, were there 2 giant bins of photographs and other sun-dried items that you collected? The answer is, there were. The DA says, and the purpose in grabbing all those photographs was what? He says, I was looking for any documentation, any photographs that might connect him to the murder of Tupac Shakur, or any of the YouTube videos, the documentaries, the book. And during the search of those bins, I located like a small photo album that was cloth bound. And inside that photo album were numerous clippings of the murder of Tupac Shakur, dating back to 1996. And in that time frame, and also his book, I recovered a copy of that, a magazine talking about the murder of Tupac Shakur, and I believe I also recovered a copy of Greg Kading's book, Murder Rap. And the DA says, in talking about those newspaper articles, he references in his interview very early on that the LA Times was reporting Keefe D's nephew, Orlando Anderson, as being a potential suspect in the early part of September. Early to mid part of September. Do you recall that? He said yes. And Keefe D actually kept a copy of that LA Times article? He said he did. Lastly, within those binders, did you locate a search warrant? and a return from the Compton Police Department in May of 1998? The answer is we did. The search warrant return was from Detective Tim Brennan, and he also mentioned his partner, Detective Ladd, in that. One of the items that was listed on the return was a receipt from the Monte Carlo Hotel. And prior to the execution of the search warrant, did you have any knowledge about the execution? The fact that that search warrant had been executed in 1998? The answer was, I was aware that there was a search warrant that was executed. I had a copy of the actual warrant and the affidavit in support of the warrant. The next question is by the DA. Let me back up. The affidavit in support of the warrant that you have is for September of 1996, as well as one from 1997. Would that be correct? The officer said yes. The DA asked, do you have one for 1998? The officer said no. The DA says, okay. And the return we have that was found was from May of 1998. Is that correct? The officer said, I believe so. Yes. DA says, okay. Once you saw that there was paperwork recovered showing a bill due to the Monte Carlo, was there efforts to, well, let me rephrase this. Prior to recovery of that, did you have evidence from the Monte Carlo that Keefe D had stayed at the Monte Carlo at the time of the Tyson fight? He says, I did not. The next question was, but you did have, and he mentions repeatedly through these interviews, C. Ray or a guy named Corey Edwards, correct? The answer was yes. And his claim is that Corey Edwards is in the van before he gets out of the van and gets into it, before Keefe D gets out of the van and gets into the Cadillac. He said that's correct. And you do have records establishing that Corey Edwards, from way back in the initial investigation, was staying at the Monte Carlo? The answer was, he was staying at the Monte Carlo during that time that Tupac Shakur was murdered. The DA said, thank you. Any other questions? And now the juror has a question. And the juror says, going way back, was the weapon that was used and or the car, the white Cadillac, either one of those ever recovered? The answer is neither one were ever recovered. We have information about them, but we were never able to identify the person who rented the car, where it was rented from. And then when it comes to the gun, we have never recovered, as of this date, the weapon that was used in the murder. The next question from the juror was, has it been verified that the Cadillac was rented, or is it that just what was said? The answer to that was, that's information that I obtained from numerous detectives that were working various parts of either this case or some other investigations in the Compton area. So now the DA asks, let me ask you this. During the course of your investigation, you learned that obviously Bubble Up, Terrence Brown, was the driver of this particular vehicle? He said yes. And the DA says, during the course of your investigation, did you learn that Terrence Brown had a family member that used to rent cars in Compton? He said that's correct. The DA says, but that company, or I guess you call it a company, that rented those cars in Compton no longer has or no longer either exists or has records that go back to 1996. The answer was, so I was aware, based on information I obtained from other police departments and other detectives, of a company that was used to rent vehicles. I contacted that company and attempted to find out if they had records going back to 1996, and they did not have records. The only way they might be able to obtain any information is if I had the name and the phone number of the person who rented the vehicle, or the vehicle identification number from that car. Since I had neither one of those, they were unable to provide any information. So now the DA asks, are there any questions? And a juror has another question. And the juror asks, in the first video that we watched today, towards the end, Mr. Davis said, don't tell anyone. That's the only way that you'll stay free. So did he at any time state why he did so many interviews, being that the murder had not been, no one had been actually charged for the murder? If he was involved, why is he speaking out so much? And the answer to that was, so he never told me personally why he was doing so many interviews. The only reason that I can see now that he is doing all of these interviews is monetary gain. And everyone else that was involved in the murder of Tupac Shakur is deceased. So now the DA asks the question. Mr. Davis mentions that he believes the police knew that he committed this crime back in 1996. And the answer to that was yes. And the DA asks, and Mr. Davis, as far as you know, has no law license, correct? He said he does not. Mr. Davis told some Los Angeles or people in California associated with law enforcement about his involvement and didn't get prosecuted for this crime, correct? He said that's correct. Then the DA says, but Metro, the jurisdiction that has authority over the investigation, never received whatever that information is, nor, as far as you know, nobody has ever, from Las Vegas, ever provided Mr. Davis any sort of immunity from prosecution, correct? And then he says they have not. So he didn't get any immunity or anything like that. It was a proffer agreement. So the next question by the DA was, and then Mr. Davis has, he said, Detective Canning published a book that referenced everything that was told to him by Mr. Davis. And Mr. Davis didn't get arrested in 2011, correct? The detective said that's correct. The DA said, and so by 2018, he decided to write his own book and start talking on YouTube videos in an effort to gain money from the killing of Tupac Shakur. The detective says, that's what I believe. The DA said, okay. And then the foreperson says, any other questions? By law, these proceedings are secret, and you are prohibited from disclosing to anyone anything that has transpired before us. Okay? Thank you. Thank you. Have a good day. You too. Okay. Then the DA says, ladies and gentlemen, that completes the presentation of the evidence for today. Well, actually, probably by 2 weeks before, we're back here in front of you and we can go off the record. Okay. And that is the end of that one. Now let's see. Now I'm hoping that this is actually a little bit of his testimony. So this one was taken Las Vegas, Nevada on Thursday, September 28th of 2023 at 8:30 a.m. Hey, Damien. Hey, lady. Hey, Take R. Kelly. What's up, guys? How are you? Thank you for stopping by, y'all. So now, grand jury exhibits is the proposed amended indictment. Okay. Okay. Okay, so now the DA starts off to say, I'm here to continue the presentation of the matter. In this case, we now have a new proposed indictment. It is marked as 1A. The charges are exactly the same. The elements are exactly the same that you were previously instructed. I think we've been here now 7 times, but over the 7 times we've been here, you were instructed at the beginning of that. It is my understanding that there are some grand jurors that weren't present for all 7, but that all grand jurors have had opportunity to review transcripts from any day that they were not present. Seeing no indication to the contrary, I have some final instructions to give you as it relates to one piece of evidence, or one area of evidence, I should say. And then also to give you instructions on some additional elements that apply to the gang enhancement, as that is something I'm not sure how many times you've been instructed on, as I don't normally present gang cases. So that being said, a conspiracy to commit a crime does not end upon the completion of the crime. The conspiracy continues until the conspirators have successfully gotten away and concealed the crime. Whenever there is slight evidence that a conspiracy existed and the defendant was a member of the conspiracy, then the statements and acts by the person, likewise, a member, may be considered by the jury as evidence in the case as to the defendant found to have been a member. Even though the statements and acts may have occurred in the absence and without the knowledge of the defendant, or even prior to the defendant joining the conspiracy, provided such statements and acts were knowingly made and done during the continuance of such conspiracy, and in furtherance of some object or purpose of the conspiracy. Then, as it relates to the gang enhancement, you are instructed that if you find probable cause that the defendant is criminally liable for murder, you must also determine whether or not the offense was committed with the intent to promote, further, or assist a criminal gang. In determining whether or not the crime was committed with the intent to promote, further, or assist a criminal gang, you must determine the following: whether the aforementioned gang is a criminal gang, whether the crime was committed knowingly for the benefit of, at the direction of, or in affiliation with a criminal gang, and 3, whether the crime was committed with the specific intent to promote, further, or assist the activities of the criminal gang. A criminal gang means any combination of persons organized formally or informally, so constructed that the organization will continue its operation even if individual members enter or leave the organization, which is 1, has a common name or identifying symbol, 2, has a particular conduct, status, and customs indicative of it, and 3, has as one of its common activities engaging in criminal activity punishable as a felony, other than the conduct which constitutes the primary offenses. Finally, I know I've repeatedly instructed you throughout this case. Have you heard evidence of the other criminal acts, or what we call bad acts, of Mr. Davis? So they're going to throw in bad acts on him as well here. I'll give you one final instruction on that. It's similar to the ones given before. Evidence that the defendant committed offenses other than that for which he is on trial, if believed, was not received and may not be considered, by you to prove that he is a person of bad character, or to prove that he has a disposition to commit crimes. Such evidence was received and may be considered by you only for the limited purpose of establishing defendant's membership and rank in the Southside Compton Crips. Is there anybody who has any questions before I ask you to deliberate? Seeking no questions, I'd ask you to deliberate. Thank you. At this time, all persons other than members of the grand jury exit the room at 8:34 a.m. and return at 8:35 p.m. The foreperson says, Mr. District Attorney, by a vote of 12 or more grand jurors, a true bill has been returned against defendant DUANE Keefe Davis, aka Keefe D, charging the crimes of murder with use of a deadly weapon with the intent to promote, further, or assist a criminal gang. In grand jury case number, we instruct you to prepare an indictment in conformance with the proposed indictment previously submitted to us. Thank you, I will. And that is the end of that, guys. So that's how it came about. I thought this was like more of his testimonies, but I guess not. So it was other detectives, 2 detectives or 3 detectives who were part of the investigation. Okay. I'm going to see if I can try to get the actual document now. Now I got to try to see if I can actually get the document. All right, guys. So yeah, that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to try to see if I can get the document and see if I can get it. If it's not, sealed up, then I'll be able to get it. If not, I won't be able to get it. But I'm going to see if I can try to get it. Okay, guys? I really would like to see what happens with that. So the grand jury documents basically that I was reading now really had to do with evidence that was found and not found in the case. Okay. Now, Keefe D made a deal. He was offered a proffer agreement. Now, this could lead to a legal problem in Nevada, in the courts right now. Let's see. Okay, so back in 2009, right? Keefe D struck a deal with LA investigators to tell them about what he knows about Tupac's murder. In exchange, those statements could not be used against him in court. Now, it's what's known as a proffer agreement. So, Greg Cadden, right? Greg Cadden, he was the former Los Angeles Police Department detective, right? He's also the one that wrote the book, okay? And Greg was investigating the murder of Biggie, okay? And as we know that Biggie was shot a few months after Tupac. So Detective Kading, he had built like a drug case against Keefe D, which would compel him to be interviewed to tell the truth. Um, uh, so with that exchange, it led to Keefe D's admission of involvement in Tupac's murder. Okay. Now, Detective Kading is saying that the caveat is that we got the confession under what's known as a proffer agreement. But when he goes outside of that agreement publicly, all bets are off. So the proffer agreement was for him to be quiet, say what he had to say in agreement with what he knew about the murder, and he wasn't going to get prosecuted as long as he shuts up. He's got to be quiet. But being that he went public with everything, now that changes. Everything is off the table now. All bets are off. So Detective Kading explains that the proffer agreement only protects Davis, Keefe D, when that information is kept confidential. And Detective Kading says that he said, I would have made very clear to him back then that he was given that protection, but that protection was limited. So he messed up when he did what he did, you know? That's why now they're prosecuting him. After 28 years. Okay. So there was a protection, the standing protection of confidentiality afforded to Mr. Davis by the LAPD in a proffer agreement. Okay. So a defense attorney would likely attempt to say you can't use those statements because they were subject to what's called a use immunity, in which they cannot be used against me. So prosecutors also argue that the protection doesn't hold in Las Vegas because the agreement was made in another jurisdiction. Also, another issue is that they would have to deal with is the fact that it was another law enforcement agency at another location that conducted this proffer and made this agreement. So the DA's office here and the local law enforcement had nothing to do with that. So regardless of whether the proffer agreement was made in another jurisdiction, he is confident that the DA's office has collected enough evidence outside of Keefe D's protected words. It states that the prosecutor in this case also know the DA very well. And he says that they have looked at this in detail and they have done all the math on this. And they feel they would probably be fairly confident in their position, or potentially they have sufficient evidence, even short of the information in the proffer, to be successful in the prosecution. The exact language in the proffer agreement is unknown and was not presented to a grand jury. So we'll never find out. And I would like to note that there's no statute of limitations for murder. Okay? Not for one reason. So the detective said that in cases like this, when things happen a long time ago, there always is a trade-off. On one hand, there's physical evidence that was new when it happened, but now it's deteriorated. Also, witnesses don't remember things in a very great detail. However, it is not uncommon for suspects to speak about a crime years later. Okay, believe it or not, defendants like to talk about their crimes. He said that I think that might be the case for Mr. Davis. And that information, those statements can be used later in a prosecution very effectively. So, yeah, so the office will not comment on the proffer agreement between LA authorities and Keefe D. So that's not going to happen. That's not going to happen. Let's watch this real quick, see what we got. Right, karma came, honey. Exactly what you said. Karma came. Karma came. Oh, wait, no. I'm sorry. Hold on. It's because this is on the same exact window. Wait, how do I don't know how to do it. I've never done it from here like that. Okay. It's not gonna let me widen this. Oh, maybe. Okay, sorry about that, guys. Man, let me get a cigarette. I'm almost done with this live. Let me get a cigarette, please. All right, guys. Okay, what the hell? So in this article here, it says that Tupac Shakur's suspect, Dwayne Keefe D. Davis, will walk free, his lawyer claims, as he blasts evidence as circumstantial. And it is circumstantial because none of it really directs, as you could see what he said. There was articles, there was pictures, newspaper clippings, and things like that. Like he had like a little shrine, things of this nature of it. So they're speculating that plus the fact that he was in the car, according to his testimony. So there's no sound? No sound. What? Hold on. Do you hear me now? Do you hear me now? There was no sound on the videos? Or no sound of me talking? TSW. Oh, you hear me now? Okay. That was weird. Okay. Well, let's check this out. Do you hear the video now? Okay. I'm confused. What's going on, guys? Talk to me. Can't hear, no video. Okay. So there's no sound on the video. All right. Let's see why. Hold on one second, guys. Okay. You guys should hear it. All right, I'm about to play it again now, okay? Give me a second. What's up, blood? All right, sorry, you guys. I'm going to try this all over again, okay? And let me know if you can hear it. I'm going to play it now.
Him to Sean Puffy Combs. Zip and Puffy were very, very close friends at that time. For Keefe D, Bad Boy Records. Every arrested. Let us, in this video, talk about who Keefe D should be afraid for his future. After all, according to the words of the protagonist of our video, Tupac's murder is also partly because of the founder of Bad Boy Records. Everything that will be said next is quoted from Keefe D's interview and autobiography. Generally speaking, Keefe D, whose real name is DUANE Davis, is a member of the Southside Compton Crips gang, which was involved in drug dealing. In the early 90s, he got to know who was from the East Coast. People in his circle just called him Zip. Actually, it was Zip himself who introduced him to Sean Puffy Combs. Zip and Puffy were very close friends at that time. For Keefe D, Puffy was just a regular guy who was just starting out with his business. However, nowadays he hates him and genuinely regrets ever meeting the guy he calls a bastard. After meeting for the first time, Puffy and Keefe D reconnected with one another after a couple of months regarding renting a car for the artist Usher for the music video Can You Get With It? Puff paid Keefe $24. Zip came calling it the Beat Summer Jam. Suge Knight was at the party, and according to Keefe's opinion, Suge was already jealous of Puffy because of how well things were going for him at the time. Suge asked him where he knows them from, and he said, just like everyone else, from drug dealing. After that, the most epic Source Awards event took place, where Suge said,
I want to stay a star. Don't want to have to worry about the executive producer trying to be all in the video, all on the record, dancing, come to death row.
These words completely destroyed the friendly relationship between Bad Boy Records and Death Row Records. However, the most intense shit happened on the 23rd of September 1995 at a party in Atlanta between the two enemy labels. Suge Knight confronted Puff Daddy and used physical power against him. Keith Murray said that Puff received a powerful slap from Suge.
And then Suge was like, yo, you all right? And Puffy was there. Then all of a sudden I saw Suge. Pow! Smack the dog out of Puffy.
And here is Reggie Wright Jr. saying that it wasn't that dramatic.
But he did grab him by his collar and was blaming Puffy that night.
And anyway, this fight led to the murder of Suge Knight's close friend, Big Jake.
He was a good friend of him. He was a very good friend. You see them together often. And I think Suge trusted him a lot.
It's difficult to say who committed the murder. However, at the time, the entire mass media said that it was someone from Bad Boy Records' side. After this event, Puff called Zep, who asked him to put Keefe D on the line, and then told him, your boy, Big CEO, he's tripping. Naturally, these words were aimed at Suge Knight. Keefe D said that Puff was so scared that he hired ex-Navy SEALs wearing earpieces like they worked for the CIA in the hotel room right next to his suite.
And I'm scared of the big boy. I mean, you know, he didn't say it in that type of words, but we went to the concert. It was in San Diego, and this nigga had fucking Navy SEALs in the next room. They looking like the FBI with earpieces and everything.
Then there was the meeting between Zip and Puff at a strip club. They were later joined by Keefe himself. From there was the proposal that he would receive $1 million for the murder of Suge and Pac.
Even if he wasn't serious about it, but he did say that wrong.
It was floating in there. I'll just say that.
Plus, Puffy trying to see me weak. Biggie Smalls and Junior Mafia, some mark-ass bitch.
This diss track from Tupac really pissed Puff Daddy off. In turn, Keefe D saw Pac a few times, and he appeared like a good guy to him. However, a little later, during one of the concerts, Tupac had to explain himself for the lines he California Love.
Worldwide, let 'em recognize from Long Beach to Rosecrans.
Some Southsiders were up at the House of Blues on Sunset, and they ran into Tupac. He was up there with Big Syke from the Outlaws. One of the wall and said, "Man, you know what that Long Beach and Rosecrans stand for?" Later came the moment which led to Tupac later attacking Orlando Anderson. One of Keefe D's friends, called Victor, was one of the main high school footballers who was heading to college. And so, Keefe told him that at the mall, he ran into 3 Pirates gang members who were down with Death Row's crew. People from the Pirates gang were beating up Victor at the mall. That same time, people from the Southsiders gang entered the mall. They didn't know that Victor is a member of the gang. When Victor saw that all, he told the people beating him up that now the real battle begins. Victor knocked down one of them. That fight changed the rap game once and for all. On the 7th of September 1996, Keefe D and his guys attended the Mike Tyson match, just as Tupac and his own guys were at the game. After the match, they headed to the prearranged meeting place where they waited. Little by little, everybody started showing up except for his nephew. Next, Keefe D was told that someone had attacked his nephew. They came to find out later, the same dude from the Lakewood Mall that got his chain snatched was walking with Tupac when they saw Baby Lane in the lobby of the MGM. They rushed up out of the cafe and went to find Baby Lane, who was actually Orlando Anderson. They saw him inside the MGM minutes after they had jumped in. By the time Suge, Pac, and their crew had already left, Baby Lane's, he asked him what had happened. He said, "Death Row guys rushed me. One of them guys from the Lakewood Mall was running with the boy that started that shit." He couldn't let that go. For him, it was seriously humiliating that some guys from the music industry had beaten up his nephew. What's more is that Puff had already asked for help, and that Suge had asked him, so they decided to take revenge. They knew that Suge and Pac were heading down the 662. While they were waiting for the valet over to his Benz, as he walked up to the driver's side window, he noticed that Foxy Brown was in the car with Zip. So Zip instructed. Zip had a hidden compartment that he opened up, reached in, and pulled a black 40 Glock out. He turned to Keefe and said, "It's time to get the money." Keefe D hopped out of the car, held the door open at the beginning. Him and his guys waited for them for an hour and a half. However, no one showed up, and Keefe D said that it was time to head out. Their next destination was the Carriage House, a Las Vegas hotel where they had rented a few rooms as a kickback spot. On the way to the Carriage House, they stopped by the liquor barn to buy some bottles of Dom Perignon Rosé, and Cristal. As they were driving to the liquor barn, it became evident that the guys in the van with Davis were worried that Suge would get some of his police hitmen to come back and try to kill them. And so, he sat in the other guy's white Cadillac, so he can go chill. He pulled out the Glock that Zip had given him and tossed it in the back seat. Bubble Up did the driving. Baby Lane and Freaky, and guess who they saw? The death row caravan hit the corner with Tupac hanging out of the window of a black luxury car. They would have never seen it. As they sat in traffic, they slowly rolled past looking into each one until they pulled up to the front vehicle and found who they were seeking. Like two rams locking horns, Suge and Keefe D looked each other dead in the eye. Their eyes locked. Pac pulled out a strap, and that's when the fight. One of Davis's guys from the back seat grabbed the Glock and started busting back. The first shot skinned Suge in his head. Keefe D heard stories claiming that Suge actually hid behind Tupac, and Suge was the first to get injured. After this incident, they hung out as if nothing had happened. They left the Cadillac, and the gun was hit the car, and the gun was gone. Greg Kading, who was investigating the murder, said that
I'm sorry, Puffy asked, man, was that us? Was it, just happened out there? QBD's like, yeah.
But the most part is that there is some information going around saying that Puff had paid Zip $1 million with Keefe D.
If he gave the money, Puffy will be in prison now, money for hire.
The FBI said that Zip.
So the FBI told you he was a dirty man. So the FBI told you Zip kept that money as well.
They said Zip's a dirty motherfucker. Everybody crossed you.
Now it was this documentary that claimed, which we know wasn't true.
Yeah, check this out. We don't talk about things that
also were saying that he confessed that Suge paid $6. Suge didn't attack him. However, that didn't help the boss of Death Row Records one bit. Suge was sentenced to 9 years behind bars. What do you think about this situation? What awaits Keefe D and Puff Daddy? Let us know in the comments.
You off in a rival gang territory. See, the gangsters nowadays compared to the ones in the 90s are night and day. And it's back when you had to be gangster to claim a set. You had to really put in the work. You had an OG that put you on and could vouch for you. See, Orlando Anderson wasn't no stranger to none of that. He was about his business. He wasn't out there playing with nobody. And it was always on sight. He was young. He was wild. He'll get you in front of a cop if he had to. He'll put in work in one of his baby mom cars if he had to. That was just one person you didn't want to have any problem with at all. Now, Orlando was a very smart kid. He went to school every day and got good grades. I don't think being a Crip was ever in the plan, but for one, he hung around a Crip neighborhood. And two, all his friends were Crips. So around that time, if you wasn't a Crip or a Blood, but you're considered that, especially if they ask you where you're from. So it made it that you had to pick a side. And as a youngin', being around those friends, he would tag along to get into some trouble, involving in robberies, fighting. He will step up into some gunplay and got into some trouble with the law enforcement early on. He would still graduate high school and still receive his diploma. Now, being out of school would cause him to hit the streets more. He would hang out more often and learn the street to start providing for not just one, but two households. So since he had two baby mamas, he had to make things happen ASAP. He hit the streets and start hustling on top of getting it the legal way at a lowrider shop. He wanted to tap into the music industry, especially after seeing all the money up north that the Mob Piru was getting with Suge Knight. Now, Suge would change lives with Death Row Records, giving out good-paying jobs to the Bloods. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but I've heard the Southside Crips and the Mob Piru rivalry went back as far as the 1970s. Now, the incident at Lakewood Mall involving a scuffle with Mob Piru member Trayvon Lane, some say his death row chain was targeted, but the plan was unsuccessful. The chain snatching attempt angered the set. The dude Trayvon Lane was the actual person that inducted Pac into the set, so Pac had to move out to get some cool points with him. Now, Pac was actually the first one to make a move, and they put hands and feet on him. Now, Orlando couldn't leave Vegas and go back to Compton without a comeback story, so he got with some of his men, and they went out hunting Mob Piru members. Now, for them to even spot Tupac and Suge in the busy Las Vegas during fight night is crazy to me, but it was on site. The Southside Crips did what they was known to do best, and we already know what happened. Now, we all could say no one deserves to die over a fight. I think what made it worse is when the other guys came over and started riding. But once you put your hands on another man, you must be prepared for what comes with it. Pac didn't know who he was putting his hands on that night, and I'm pretty sure they didn't tell him to move out the way he did. And as far as Orlando, you can hate him all you want, but he did what he was supposed to do as a gangster. Now, after the Tupac incident, Baby Lane started to buzz, and his name started to ring. He would be focused more on his record label, and his plan was to use the Tupac incident as publicity to get the label off the ground and sort of compete with Death Row Records. But he was a gangster first and was still taking care of street business. September 9th, 1996, 2 days after the Tupac incident, a high-ranked Southside Crip, Darnell Brim, was hit up several times in a drive-by shooting in Compton. He survived the shooting, and it was said that he was one of the guys in the car during the Vegas shooting. Luda Park Piru members were hit by 9mm bullets when alleged Southside Crip members riding in a blue blazer spotted them in front of a hangout. Some say it's related to the war between the Southside Crips and the Mob Piru, but it was so much gun smoke going on, you ain't know where it was coming from. The Southside Crips were aligning themselves with the Neighborhood Crips, the Kelly Park Crips, and Atlantic Drive Crips. And the Mob Pirus were aligning with the Luda Park Crips and the Elm Lane Pirus. September 10th, which was the very next day, Gary Williams, a Death Row associate, was a victim in a drive-by shooting by the Southside Crips. Now, the war went on for about a week or two. Anderson was arrested by Compton police in a gang sweep on October 2nd. During his police arrest, weapons that looked as they were preparing for a war. They wanted to charge him for a different body that time, but the Compton police were unable to satisfy the district attorney with enough information to hold him, because that was enough to put him away for a while. Now, Orlando Anderson would stay in the media. He would be a part of, TV interviews with a smirk on his face talking about the Tupac incident. Nothing's funny about a man's death, don't get me wrong, but the interview clips itself is hilarious because up in a lie, he's the last person that you would go to. But yeah, it was like he enjoyed all the attention. He actually came to Suge Knight's trial. He testified on his behalf and said that Suge didn't stump him during the Vegas incident. And the fact that he ain't even have to show up doesn't get any gangster than that. Yeah, they were just like, hey, we're going to keep law enforcement out of this, and we're going to keep it in the street. Now, some say Suge paid him off. And if it's true, let me know in the comments. And tell me how much was it, because I think I heard it was about like $60K or something. Like to a food spot called Mom's Burger. From there, he spots two corner pocket Crips at a car. One of the two owed money and been ducking him. He leaves the restaurant and goes to the hood to pick up one of his people. When he comes back to the area, the guys are still at the wash. He parks up, exits the vehicle with a vicious press game. At that moment, it was 3 Crips. So, his gun went off. Shots were returned by Jerry J. Dog Stone, hitting Orlando, leaving a 3rd wounded. Stone was one of the 2 that lost their lives. When Orlando went down, his partner grabbed the gun and started shooting. You live by the gun, you die by the gun. He died very young. And let's say if Tupac would have made it out of Vegas alive and Baby Lane didn't lose his life, they would have been exactly where Suge is now. Pac was out on bail and had open cases during the incident, and he was caught on camera during the assault. So by that Monday, he would have had to turn himself in. Orlando was already super hot on the streets, and his name was attached to other murders. Now, I don't wish jail on anybody, but I think prison would have saved both of their lives, if you ask me. Now, no matter what Tupac story you hear, it always ends with Orlando Anderson, 2 African-American men that look just alike, trying to survive, with one trying to get where the other person is, and the other being successful. R.I.P. to both brothers. This story could be a lesson to young black men that made it. And, it seems like it repeats itself in different forms right in front of our faces. With the King Von incident, the Young Dolph situation. If you're a man, of course, defend yourself at all costs. But success is the best revenge. Now, shout out to all my supporters. If you're watching this, so you don't miss out on my new content. But thanks for watching. I'm out.
Okay, guys, and that is the end of my show. Thank you guys for coming and stopping by. Please make sure you hit that like button on your way out. Don't forget, okay? I love you guys. Your girl Diva Divine Light is out. Peace.
You are watching Diva Divine Light.
You can fuck with me if these is red bottoms, these is bloody shoes. Hit the scoop, I can get them both. I don't want to choose, and I'm quick. Cut every nigga off, so don't get comfortable. Look, I don't dance now, I make money move. Now I gotta dance, I make money move. If I see you now, that means I don't fuck with you. I'm a boss, you a worker, bitch. I make bloody move. Now she say, gon' do what or who? Let's find out and see. Cardi B, you know where I'm at, you know where I be. Just a party, I'm there, I get paid. I be in and out the bank so much, I know they